Day 18, Genesis 37, Genesis 38. 37, Joseph's dream. Jacob was in the land of his father's sojournings, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. Joseph brought a bad report of those who reported them to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his other brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were finding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us, or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. Now his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." And he said to him, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now, see if it is well that your brothers and with their flocks, and bring me word." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and came to Shechem, and a man found him wandering in the fields. And the man asked, "Where are you seeking?" "I am seeking my brothers," he said. "Tell me, please, where they are pasturing the flock." And the man said, "They have gone away, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers, and found them at Dothan. Then they saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, "Here comes the dreamer. Come on, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits, and they will say that a fierce animal had devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams." But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." And Reuben said to him, "Shed no blood, throw him into the pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he may rescue him out of their hand to restore him to his father." So that when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, and there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat, and looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing gum, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it that if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And the brothers listened to him. Then Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. They took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he tore his clothes and returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and where shall I go?" They took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood, and they sent the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, "This is what we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not." And he identified and said, "It is my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him." Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his garments and packed sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, "No, I shall go down to Sheol to my son, mourning." Thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold him to Egypt, to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. 38. It happened at the time that Judah went down to his brothers and turned aside to a certain Adullamite whose name was Hira. There Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. He saw her and went with her, and she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. Yet again she bore a son, and she called his name Shelah. Judah was in Chezib, where she bore him, and Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Go to your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her, and raise her up her offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he went to his brother's wife, he would waste semen on the ground, so as to not give offspring to his brother. And what he did was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death also. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Remain a widow in your father's house. Tell Shelah, my son's grown up." For he feared that he would die like his brothers, so Tamar went and remained in her father's house. In the course of the time, a wife of Judah, Shua's daughter, died. When Judah was comforted, he went up to Timnah to his sheep shearer, and he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And when Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is going to go up to Timnah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow's garments and covered herself with a veil, wrapped herself up, and sat at the entrance of Enam, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown up, and she had not been given to him in marriage. When Judah saw her, he thought that she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. He turned to her at the roadside and said, let me come into you." For he did not know what she was, his daughter-in-law. She said, "What will you give me, that you may come in to me?" He answered, "I will send you a young goat from the flock." And she said, "If you give me a pledge until you send it." He said, "What pledge shall I give you?" She replied, "Your signet and your cord and your staff that is in your hand." So he gave them to her and went in to her, and she conceived by him. Then she arose and went away, and taking off her veil, she put on the garments of her widowhood. When Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Adullamite to take back the pledge from the woman's hand, he did not find her. And he asked the men in place, "Where is the cult prostitute who was in Enam on the roadside?" And they said, "No cult prostitute has been here." So he returned to Judah and said, "I have not found her." Also the men in the place said, "No cult prostitute has been here." And Judah replied, "Let her keep the things as her own, or she will be laughed at. You see, I sent this young goat, and you did not find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Tomorrow your daughter-in-law has been immoral. Moreover, she is pregnant by immorality." And Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." As she was being brought out, she sent word to her father-in-law, "By the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant." And she said, "Please identify whose these are, the signet and the cord and the staff." And Judah identified them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not know her again." When the time of her labor came, there were twins in her womb, and when she was in labor, one put out a hand. The midwife took and tied a scarlet thread on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." But as he drew back his hand, behold, his brother came out, and she said, "What a breach you have made for yourself." Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward, his brother came out with the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was called Zerah. Would waste the semen on the ground, and it says, Onan engaged in coitus interruptus, not self-gratification, as some early rabbis mistakenly thought. A detailed explanation of his actions is not given, but selfish is the most likely explanation. He probably feared that a son born to Tamar would be more privileged over all the other sons born to him, reducing the importance of his own family line and reducing his share in Judah's inheritance. Where are you tempted to believe God is inactive because progress feels slow?
I mean, I used to think that when we were waiting for our house.
Yeah.
That was rough.
The trials and tribulation of this house being built.
And even now that it's built.
Slow moving process. It's never ending. What does obedience look like when the outcome remains uncertain? Still just chugging along. Just doing what the Lord lays on your heart, and eventually the outcome will come to be what it is to be. Number 3. How does Psalm 18 strengthen your trust in God rather than yourself?
I remember it being reassuring.
For who is God but the Lord? This is verse 31. And who is the rock except our God? The God who equipped me with the strength and made my way blameless. He made my feet like the feet of a deer and set me secure on the heights. He trains my hands for war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. He is the rock. He is your rock, and I think Joby Martin does a really good job when he says, like, it's this, he's like the center hub of a wheel. Everything in your life comes off the spokes, but that center hub is Christ. As long as you have that strong center hub, the rest of your spokes are linked to that, and that's how you trust in the Lord.
For number 1, the song Waymaker popped into my head. When you're tempted to believe God is inactive, it's that song, like the end of it, where it's like, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That popped into my head. So
Yeah, relatively short today. That's it for day 18. Peace.